Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It's Friday the 13th, spooky. School is out, Phineas and Ferb are back with the 5th season. For those who don't know what Phineas and Ferb is, it's a cartoon that premiered in 2007, ran on Disney for 4 seasons, concluded in 2015. It was created by Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh, who just goes by Swampy Marsh. Its pilot, Roller Coaster, remains the most viewed Disney Channel original series episode ever with 10.8 million views. Do you know why?
Well, it's very strange because I watched it when it came out. I watched
Lots of
High
people
School
did.
Musical 2, which
Thank you.
premiered right beforehand, and then I was like, "Oh, they're doing this, like, lead-out program." Didn't know what it was. Watched Phineas and Ferb when it premiered, and then I was like, "Oh, I hope that show, like, ends up being picked up," and then a couple months later, it
You
was.
clearly weren't alone. So that after High School Musical 2, and High School Musical 3 was also very popular,
High
but that
School
was
Musical 3, the difference was that was released in theaters. But
thank
like
you.
High School Musical 2, I remember there were so many ads for it leading up just with cast members that were like, make sure to tune in on this Friday.
Yeah,
And I watched at the beginning of third grade, I think, because it was like August of 2007.
you were prime demographic. It was August 17th, I believe. And the second most watched show episode ever is the one that came out after Phineas and Ferb. Do you remember what that was? What show
No,
followed that? It was Hannah Montana, the episode featuring the Jonas Brothers. Did you ever see that one?
Yes, no, I remember that they did ads for that as well. I remember a lot about that time, specifically with Phineas and Ferb. Like, I remember I really wanted to stay up late to watch the new premiere. I think it was the second episode where it was called, like, The Fast and the Phineas. And then I also remember, for some reason, I remember this leap year of 2008, they were going to do a Phineas and Ferb marathon.
Hmm.
I was a pretty big fan of it at the time.
Right. I was just going to say the third episode on the Disney Channel original series most watched episodes ever. You also know it's a 2012 finale. Do I need to give any more than that?
I don't know.
The
Was it The Sweet Life on Deck? I don't know.
No,
I
who
think
will
that's-
be the family wizard?
Oh, okay, so Wizards of Waverly Place. It's actually interesting you mentioned finales because back around 2016, 2017, in my senior year of high school, got really nostalgic, and I was wondering for some reason I wanted to check out series finales to shows that I watched on Disney Channel. So I looked up the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody finale, only to realize that I had seen it as a kid. I just didn't know that was the finale. But then I looked up the Sweet Life on Deck finale, watched that. Hannah Montana finale, watched that. Watched the Phineas and Ferb finale. The strange thing about the series, and maybe you can confirm this, is that I think the penultimate episode was supposed to be like a 10-year flash forward where like they were trying to figure out what college to go to. And then strangely enough, from what I remember with the finale of the actual series and like the next episode, it's back to its normal timeline. It takes place over like the last day of summer and they do like a recap song. And I think that was probably my favorite out of all the finales I watched back then.
So, yeah, a couple things about that. I never really watched Phineas and Ferb. It was just a little bit past my time as
Yeah.
far as I wasn't the prime
I
demographic.
do think, though, it was like a precursor to like Rick and Morty and like the regular show, though, a little bit. I've always said Phineas
Absolutely.
and Ferb is like Rick and Morty for kids if kids didn't watch Rick and Morty.
Well, so a couple things. One is I don't know if the fast forward episode happened right before the finale. It probably did, but I know it existed. It was kind of like Rugrats when they did their zoom up into their adult teens. And I think in the Phineas and Ferb one, doesn't Phineas end up kissing like the girl he likes or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that? Or yeah. So what made the show so good though that you wanted to check
I
it out?
think it was just the zaniness of it. It has like an 8.1 on IMDb. I think like not even I don't think kids are the only people that watched it. Maybe for this reboot because it's cashing in on nostalgia, but I think that like anyone can watch it and enjoy the
Is it
series.
more because it has original songs that are catchy? Is it the characters? Is it the cameos?
I think it was definitely the characters and the songs. Bowling for Soup, which is really funny because I remember listening to them when I was on my way to elementary school and kindergarten. It was Bowling for Soup's 1985, Jonas Brothers' Year 3000, and Akon's Lonely that were on the radio that we were listening to all the time when I rode the bus to go to elementary school. They do the beginning song for this as well, I think, as well.
Yes, they
Yeah.
do. And not only that, but it's kind of like the Big Bang Theory song where it explains a full phenomenon. Now, it's not the show being explained.
I don't know what school they go to where it's 104 days of summer vacation. That was always, it
They've
seems
done
like
the
a
math.
lie.
They've done the math, and I think that the summer would have to start at the very beginning of May and come into play. You would have to start school in the very end of August, right? So
Yeah.
that's not crazy, but there are 10% of U.S. schools that do year-round schooling. So it
Right.
doesn't apply to everybody for
Right, they
sure.
take away breaks, right?
Yeah, they take away breaks, and then there's some schools that just literally have a shorter summer. So in California, for instance, where they make the show, I think there's only like 60 some days of summer. They've talked about that at length. Let's talk about the show though. Did you ever see the follow-ups to it? Candace Against the Universe, Milo Murphy's Law, which was there. They had a spin-off program that also incorporated in a crossover episode, Phineas and Ferb.
No, I didn't even know that those existed. I just know that, like, the original show ended in 2015, and again, I only saw that final episode.
Okay, but you watched how many seasons do you think?
I think probably the first season, definitely, like, from 2007 to 2009, I would say.
So you are aware of the tropes of the show as well as like the formulaicness of it.
Right.
What would you say is that formula? Like they have the adventure with the kids.
There's the adventure with the kids, then there's Perry the Platypus. Still, he steals the show in this TV series, and usually that storyline with Doofenshmirtz obsessed with trying to take over the tri-state area, somehow by the very end, kind of crosses roads with Phineas and Ferb deciding what to do that day.
From what I understand, the show kind of grew into an Adventure Time regular show effect where over the seasons, especially season 4, they started to take some real, because they knew it was their last season, they took some real like divergences in how they portrayed. Like it was more complex. The characters got more development. Candace got a boyfriend. Do you remember Jeremy? Was he in the show by the time that you were watching
I
it?
think Jeremy even shows up at the very end of the first episode if he's who I'm thinking of, but maybe not. I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, I think he got recast for this because the person who voiced him had like issues or
Speaking
something.
of which, I didn't want to jump into my cons right away, but I am very, very sad that Thomas Brody Sangster is not the original voice of Ferb, the guy from Game of Thrones. I get it. He's 35. He's way more famous than he was 17 years ago, and he doesn't want to do one line per episode anymore, but just the knowledge that it wasn't him was a huge letdown.
He hasn't voiced the character since the end of the show, though. So it's been, I think, by the time Candace Against the Universe and the Milo Murphy's crossover and everything like that, people have gotten used to the new person who voices him. And so that really wasn't one of the changes that I saw people going
Like I
after.
said, I didn't even notice it at first, but when I
just saw his
saw
name
when I
wasn't in
saw
there.
it wasn't him, I was like, "Oh no!"
Today, we're going to talk about the 4 segments that came out, the 2 episodes on June 5th, Summer Blockbuster, Cloudy with a Chance of Mom, Submarine Sandwich Submarine, and License to Bust. Yeah, go ahead.
So, for the first one, actually, Summer Blockbuster and Cloudy with a Chance of Mom are kind of like a part 1 and part 2. But at the very beginning of the first one, Summer Blockbuster, I can't help but think this had to have been a reference to High School Musical 2 because it's on the last day of the next summer vacation. The kids are singing about summer. There's a close up on the clock. I mean, like it's almost exactly like what time is it with High School Musical 2?
Well, they had like over 200 segments from the original show, so they more than enough to cover one summer. So a lot of people have speculated this is just the next summer. Phineas.
Well, it's not speculation. What happened was Phineas and Ferb gave like a 9-month summary, kind of like what every teacher asks you to do to like kind of talk about your summer. Apparently, they did this in the TV show for 9 months in different installments, and now it is the beginning of next summer, and it's on the last day of school of the next year. Phineas and Ferb throw a massive start of summer party, while Candace tries, as always, to like kind of rat them out, and somehow Dr. Doofenshmirtz, even though at the very end of the original series was cool with Perry, is now evil again, and he has a transformation gun that accidentally turns Linda, their mom, into a cloud.
He has a vaporizer-inator, is what it's called here. And that it vaporizes her by the end of the episode, right?
Yeah.
And then she becomes like a cloud of
She
mist.
becomes a cloud, yep.
Between Doofenshmirtz, Crocker from Fairly Odd Parents, Plankton from SpongeBob, Wile E. Coyote from Looney Tunes.
Oh, that's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, like they all kind of follow the same arc as a character, right? They're like this evil genius that uses these crazy devices that never work the way they're supposed to.
I would say Doofenshmirtz is more like Wile E. Coyote in the sense that he's more like lovable. The Cranker from Fairly Odd Parents is just
Crocker.
creepy. Crocker, yeah.
You can call him Cranker if you want.
He's just creepy, like from what I remember that from, yeah.
I just remember like all their attention goes towards like trying to defeat the thing, and then it ends up like coming back and beating them
And
up.
I always like how Perry the Platypus, definitely nostalgia with his song in the background and him wearing the almost Monsieur Spade type cap whenever he gets the
The fedora?
the fedora with a message with the lieutenant.
It also is kind of like the good guy turned like good and then back to evil, like
Right.
Joker and Harley Quinn,
And
right?
that's another thing. They did kind of retcon the series. Now the series actually brings attention to it. Even Doofenshmirtz's daughter is like, "Oh, we're evil again." But I was a little sad that,
Doofenshmirtz's daughter, is
yeah,
that
Vanessa.
Vanessa's character, is she ever been good?
Uh,
Is she like in Venture Bros, where the daughter of the villain ends up dating one of the
I think
main
in the
characters?
penultimate episode, Vanessa had something with Ferb, if I remember that
Oh,
correctly.
okay.
Like they had some type of love
So
thing.
maybe that was the thing that I was talking about where Phineas fell in love. I get the two confused because, again, I haven't seen too much of the show, but Ferb is the tall one. He's the
Yeah.
one who doesn't speak. And in the first episode, they're off doing their own thing. Doofenshmirtz vaporizes the mother. And you said part two, it's the
Yeah,
second
so it
episode.
just ends right there. That's where the pilot ends, and it says like kind of on to part two. That's Cloudy with a chance at mom. The kids scramble to save Linda in cloud form, while Doofenshmirtz tries to turn Linda's cloud into a storm.
So he's not concerned that he just like killed a person.
No, I
And does
don't
she
even
still have
think.
sentience? Is she like still talking to her kids?
Well, apparently they do. That's what we learn at the end of the episode. She's in a cloud form, but like you can still see her face.
Right.
And at the end of the episode, Candace ends up speaking to the mom cloud and brings up the pictures because the mom, Linda, started to get like really teary eyed in the first episode talking about the family pictures, and that brings her back into human form.
That's a very regular show ending.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like it has nothing to do with the vaporizer or Nader turning, like they didn't have to shoot it again. It literally was just the cloud coming to form itself back into the mom shape.
It was about, I think that the mom was about to die because Doofenshmirtz was combining a cold front with a warm front and about to make
make a
this
storm.
storm.
Of course. Yes.
Which he didn't know that he was supposed to do. But yeah, then she ends up being saved.
Do
and-
they forgive Doofenshmirtz from his Doofenshmirtzing?
Not really, no. But
They
I
just let
don't.
him go about his dude.
I
like,
don't
stuff?
remember. I don't think Phineas and Ferb, and this may be wrong, but I don't think they ever knew who Doofenshmirtz was or like really interacted
Not by the time
with
you
him.
stopped watching it.
Yeah, I don't remember an episode like that. But again,
Okay.
I could be wrong because the whole entire thing is where's Perry? They have no idea that Perry is this agent.
And the other thing that I'll just throw in the first episode is that Candace does turn from trying to get the kids in trouble to helping them again.
Right.
And teaming up with them. Okay.
And that's why she's able to save the mom. So the third one was Phineas and what was the name
Submarine
of it?
Sandwich Submarine.
That's what it was. Yes, Phineas and Ferb, they build a submarine made out of a sandwich and explore the Mariana Trench. And this is very regular show as well because the whole episode or their main story is them being chased by this giant fish monster that's trying to eat them the
Is
whole
it in
entire
their head
time.
or is it a real
No,
fish
it's-
monster?
They actually build the submarine, so they like go down the Mariana Trench,
Is
but
it-
it's chasing them.
Sorry for interrupting, but is it like edible? Can you eat it? Like
Well,
while
you-
you're in the water? Can
Yeah.
you just eat it from the inside
Yeah,
out?
I mean, it was like an actual sandwich.
Okay, so it's not like the Titan submersible where it's just going to like explode if it gets too much pressure. This is okay.
Yeah, and then on like the other storyline with Doofenshmirtz, he can't leave his home, so he's made a machine that is stealing people's food from their plates. Very, very strange.
So he's gone from I'm going to kill this kid's mom and then have like a giant storm created to get the town to I'm going to just
He
steal some
says-
morsels off people's plates.
He says a great line, and I'm not going to try and re-say it, but it was in the pilot where he was talking about how he kind of has to start small in order to get bigger, almost like he knows he's going to be defeated all these times.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
kind of
It's a very meta type of
Yes.
bringing attention to it. And then the last one, License to Bust. Did they save the best for last, or was this just like another random episode?
I think that the two-parter was personally my favorite out of all of them, but
comeback.
I think that all of them work on their own level because yeah, Phineas and Ferb make gecko-inspired climbing gear while Candace takes her driving test. They even do a backflash to the original series. They show a clip where she was like running into different cars when she was trying to learn to drive with her dad.
They
And
actually did voice flashes earlier because in the first episode, when Candace is screaming, Ashley Tisdale couldn't do that because she was pregnant or didn't want to. And she was like, just use the old footage.
She's older also, yeah. So it'd
Right.
probably
And so
be
they all
harder.
had to, even Phineas had to redo some of his lines in the intro song or something because he didn't want it to be so drastically different.
Well, even Bowling for Soup, when they did the original song, I'll get to that in a second, but when they did the original song in the second episode, or third episode, third segment, second episode, he, I think, had to redo the song as well.
Okay.
Because it's a little different. But yeah, they make gecko-inspired climbing gear, and then Doofenshmirtz's traffic light inator causes chaos because he's able to turn every single red light green.
That's a real thing, though. Like, That's a real thing that I've seen in villains do in stories before.
Yeah, well, and Perry has to try and stop him the whole entire time, and it just, like, across town kinda turns crazy. And then, yeah, Candace unknowingly helps foil Doof's plan, and then she passes her driving test, and that's all 4 episodes, basically.
Okay, and so do you think she's just gonna be in a car for the rest of the series, or do you think it's just back to normal? Like, they
It's
kind of
strange.
reset at the end of
Yeah,
every episode.
well, that's kinda the thing that surprised me a little bit because now that Candace can drive, I assume that she's just really probably going to be helping out with Phineas and Ferb this whole entire time. That's
Which
why it
gives
didn't
yeah.
make a lot of sense why she was also trying to rat them out later
You
on.
know, I mean, she's an older sister, and it's a little different than like Vicky in Fairly Odd Parents, where
Evil
there was
babysitter,
no
yeah.
reason why the babysitter had to be babysitting as much as she did. But like with the sister, it makes sense that she'd be living in the same place. So changes you want to bring attention to. I know these are somewhat subjective, but did they treat the kids older?
No, not really. At least from what I remember, it seemed like everyone looked the same. This wasn't an Incredibles 2 situation where they changed any character's design, and they sounded pretty like, I mean, it was basically the
For the
same
most part,
cast.
same cast.
Yeah.
More importantly, though, the world has changed in the last 10 years.
Yes,
Was
so
that represented?
that's what I was really happy about. Yes, there's some things here and there, like a Zoom call, one of the characters turns into like a sock puppet. So there's like a couple updated references, but the show is not like obsessed. It's not like the Shrek 5 teaser trailer where suddenly Shrek is looking at
That's true.
TikTok.
That's
It
true.
seemed like it actually was able to keep its same type of like, it wasn't cringy.
Very topical that you brought up TikTok, though, because part of the reason the show came back was because of how popular it is on platforms like TikTok, and that the creators use those platforms to try to promote it a lot. So it's good that they didn't bring it too much into the show.
And yeah, I already kind of brought attention to it, but the intro song, There's Another 104 Days of Summer Vacation, was a nice touch. And Love Handle, which is based off of Bowling for Soup. I think the main singer from Bowling for Soup is even in the first episode because they have Love Handle, who is in I think that was an episode of the first season, and he says a line. So I think that was the main singer from Bowling for Soup showing up in the first episode of this.
So did you recognize the cameo of the driving instructor? Did you
No,
catch
I
the name? That
didn't.
was Jonathan Banks. So,
Oh.
Mike from Breaking Bad. And then as far as the animation itself, people have had a polarizing opinion.
So it's cleaner, which isn't as great, but I didn't think that it looked too different, but did they do something?
It's the same studios, but it's the same incorporating the movie studio that did it as well, which is what
Oh,
you're talking
okay.
about, that clean looking thing. But it's the same animation director as well. So
It seemed a little 3D as well.
yeah, kind of like if you watch Simpsons now versus 10 years ago versus 10 years before that, it's always kind of improving slowly, and in a way, kind of takes a little away from it. But I think overall, the fans have been pretty happy with how it looks, how it sounds.
The show has the same energy, I feel like, that the original had. The only problem, again, was I felt like I really wanted Ferb to be the original voice actor, and it's only a con because I've grown older. The songs, it's probably just bias, but I think the original had better songs than this one did.
Okay.
It's usually a
So
song in every episode.
maybe I just haven't listened to them on repeat enough.
I'll definitely be checking out like the newest episodes, and I was happy with this. I really was, because Phineas and Ferb I thought was a great show as a kid. I'm gonna be giving this a 7 out of 10.
I was going to ask, what would it take for this show going in to have made it onto your best ofs by the end of the year?
Get Ferb's voice.
No, I mean, like, realistically, what would this show have had to have become?
You know, it's a good question, but I genuinely don't know.
Okay, well, let's compare it to some stuff. Clone High. We also did that one. You'd watched the first season. When it came back, it completely changed. It updated the characters.
Yeah.
It got rid of Gandhi.
And they changed the main character too, I think, from Abe to Joan of Arc.
In the first episode, I think Abe was canceled, right?
Something, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I remember was that Cleopatra's head, which was always like a straight line, they kind of like curved it a little bit. And then I see Isabella in this, and she's got the same head.
I
Like,
would be shocked. There's no way. I mean, I might be wrong. Isabella is not the same voice actor, right? Because to keep
It
that
is.
same pitch,
I'm
wow.
pretty sure. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. And then another question for you. So another test. Total Drama Island. You were watching that around the same time that you were watching Phineas and
Yes,
Ferb, right?
Cartoon Network, yeah.
Which came out first?
Which came out first?
Right.
Oh, well, I mean, Phineas and Ferb came out in 2007. I'd be shocked if Total Drama Island came out before that. But I think before it came on to Cartoon Network, it was on a Canadian network. So I'm just going to guess Cartoon Network.
Wait.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm going to guess Total Drama Island.
Yeah, so you're right, and you got it right for the right reason. I was going to give you credit either way because it came out in July 8th, a month before Phineas and Ferb in Canada. Then it waited a year and came out the next summer, June 5th in the US in 2008.
I remember a huge thing with that was I was always wanting to like watch it online, but the problem was that since the whole series had already come out, it would like ruin it sometimes who was getting eliminated that week.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that makes sense. The one thing that they made sure that they weren't able to do when they ended Phineas and Ferb was that the studios made them promise not to kill anyone because they knew that if they brought it back, and obviously they
I
wouldn't
mean,
kill
yeah, it's
anyone in
also a
this type
kid
of show.
That was a problem with the Avatar: The Last Airbender because when it got to the end of the series, they were like, I mean,
They killed
kind of
everybody.
spoilers.
No.
They were like, you can't kill anyone. This is a TV show, but that was kind of what the show was leading up to at that point. So the writers had to kind of change it.
For different reasons, though. But yeah, so when Total Drama Island came back, that you would probably consider a less talent because it wasn't
Right.
even a next season. It was like a complete reboot.
Right. I did not like that. Yeah.
Futurama, let's throw that one in there because they picked up where they left off, but they did this. They did it the same way that Clone High did. They unfroze.
Right. And I
Yes.
remember I gave that like a 5. Yeah, I think that Phineas and Ferb still beats that too.
And kind of out there is that this is the first season of Phineas and Ferb, I think, that came out at the beginning of summer when it actually like should, for the song to make sense.
And
Every
that's
other season it looked like was coming out at the end of summer or in middle of the year.
And I was gonna say that's what kind of shocked me because first season I thought this was going to be like a reboot, like its own TV show, but no, this is really season 5,
Yeah.
episode 1 and 2.
Okay. And then regular shows also coming back, but it does have that traditional formula. So
Excited for that.
I have to relate it to this for that reason. And then South Park and Big Mouth. If you think about it, Phineas and Ferb, how old are they?
I would say maybe at this point like 9 or 10.
Yeah, and if you take an extra year, like people say the original was 10, maybe 11, that's South Park to Big Mouth ages. Like that is right in that sphere. Completely different representation.
Yeah,
of
this is TVG.
how kids acted. And so my question is, how did you act when you were that age?
Oh man, I was watching Phineas and Ferb.
Okay, so you're just like this innocent little kid running around and singing. Last little thing to end this out, I've got a little game. Test your childhood memory, right?
Okay.
Real or fake episode titles. Now, I realized that you only really watched the first couple seasons, so I tried to keep it to that, but I thought that maybe you'd watched into season 2, so maybe
There's a chance. I'm not sure when I exactly.
So just tell me if these are real or fake titles.
Okay.
Swiss Family Phineas, because they're all going to be puns of some sort.
Is it real?
Yes, season 2, episode 10. Perry Juice, Perry Juice, Perry Juice.
Oh wow, that's a difficult one. I think it could be both. I'm gonna go with real again.
Fake. That one's made up. The Lake Nose Monster.
Real.
That is season 2,
Yes.
episode 1.
I think I might have watched that one. Yeah.
Yeah, the premiere of the next year. Space Jammin'.
There is one where they go into space. I remember it from the leap year promo on Disney, so I'm gonna go with real.
Fake.
Oh,
It's funny though because Jammin', they should take that title if they want to. It's not like I'm holding it. Wizard of Oz. Oh, sorry, Wizard of Odd.
Fake.
No, that's real.
Oh.
Season 2, episode 56. You might not have seen it. I, Brobot.
Robot. Well, it's so far it's just been real, fake, real. I'm gonna go with real though.
It is real because it was the 8th episode of the original thing, so I thought maybe you'd know that one. So, as far as reception-wise, you said it yourself, it has an 8.1 on IMDb. That's not going to change based on this renewal. Phineas and Ferb sticks to what works in a welcome return. That's what Rolling Stone said. You gave it a 7 out of 10. Just as far as friendly competition goes, you look at Everybody Hates Chris, the main voice, Vincent Martello, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he's at all like jealous of Chris, and should he be? Because what do you think Abbott Elementary has on IMDb? Do you think it's higher or lower than Phineas and Ferb?
I think it's probably. I'm gonna go with lower. It's lower.
Higher by 1, but both of them are beat by Terry Crews, who has an 8.4 for Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So, yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add about Phineas and Ferb, the remake? Are you going to watch the rest of the episodes?
Maybe not the full season, but definitely it's got me interested to watch the next few.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.